Hello, Sir Reginald Ducat Esquire here, inventor of cheese. Today is a review recap on Board Deck and Dice where I take a look at 10 of my last reviews, give you a kind of score for them that I think they would get according to the Board Game Geek rating system, and in the description will be links to the fuller reviews. So without further ado, last week I looked at, Sushi Go, which is a very pure drafting game. You're taking a number of cards into your hand depending on players, you're selecting one of those for yourself, and then you're passing the rest of the cards on and receiving cards, and in doing that you're trying to get the best set to score you points. I really like Sushi Go. It is a solid game for me and I rated that a 7.4. Next up is Ember, which was a game I kickstarted and got in touch with Stuart, the guy who made the game, the designer, creator of the game, because he lives in the same town as I do, and I have had the good luck and fortune to test the new prototypes for the expansion for that, which is just funded recently on Kickstarter. Ember is a game with a stylized deck of cards that you then use to conjure different types of spell, which will then give you points or affect other cards in some way. So you'll be using 3 of the same suit or 2 of the same number. They're called wizards in this game, and there's a lot of strategy to it, a lot of variability. You can put in different numbers of cards, and you're trying to score a set amount of points that you agree between you, but some of your cards will be flipped over during the course of the game, so no one knows how many points you've got, and other cards can affect that total. At some point one wizard would call it saying, I think I've got enough points here, but they may not end up winning depending on how the other players have played. It's a great little game. Ember, 7.5 from me. Choreo is a card game that has one of the worst rulebooks I've ever seen, but is a good game. I gave it a 7.6. You have 8 rounds to play one type of card in front of you, and you're only allowed to keep a certain amount in front of you, but you can play more in that turn if you wish. And each turn you get less cards. So you draw 10 on the first go, you play, I think you can keep 3, but you can play however many you can in front of you. And if you have the majority of that type of card in front of you, you earn a power. It is quite tactical. The majorities change over, and depending on which card you get, you can do different things. You all know how many of each card there is in the game. It's a very clever little game, worth battling through the rulebook for. I also gave a 7.6 to Wok on Fire, which reminded me a lot of Sushi Go. In fact, I did a video on them both at the same time. I prefer Wok on Fire a little bit because instead of drafting, you are literally laying a load of the cards face down the table and using a spatula card to flip them over, and then collecting cards to make sets, similarly to Sushi Go. It's not that I have anything against drafting, but my favourite drafting game is probably Treasure Hunter, which why in this example of kind of food set collection, Wok on Fire just edged it for me, plus I'm a dexterity fan. Also, I did a review of Bang the Dice game, which I gave a 7.8. Bang is a hidden role game with Yahtzee style dice. One will be the sheriff, and they're trying to get rid of the outlaws and renegades. The sheriff may or may not have deputies in the game who are trying to support the sheriff. The outlaws are trying to kill the sheriff, and if there's any renegades, they are trying to be the last person left alive. And you do this through rolling dice, Yahtzee style, and performing the dice outcomes, as it were. There can be Indian attacks. Each person has a unique power. It works very, very well, and it plays up to 8 players, and is better at the higher player counts. Also with a 7.8 is Mana Surge, a game I backed on Kickstarter without too much knowledge about it. Yeah, I used to do that. And actually turned out to be a fantastic little game. It sort of reminds me of Uno, but better than that sounds. Basically, each turn one player will play a card, and that dictates the power or the rule in effect for that round. They then choose to play that left or right. It's like a spell is going around the players until it hits someone who can't play a valid card. To play a valid card, you need to play a card of the same number or higher. If you play a card of the same suit, you get potential for point scoring, but there's some really clever mechanics called rebirthing, where you dive, too many spells hit you and you take too much damage, and mana surging, where at the end of the turn you do not have to draw back up to 5. And if you get rid of all your hands in a go, all your cards in a go, you get 2 shards, which are the victory condition, and you also get to heal any damage done. Very nice, plays very well. Perhaps a little bit long at 6 players, but you can just play with less shards. They suggest 10. I still felt a little bit. Well, we're not talking a lot there, but I still felt it was a little bit long with 6. But 4 or 5 players, brilliant, perfect. Next was Skulking, which I gave an 8 out of 10. And Skulking is a fantastic trick-taking game, where you are not scoring points for the tricks you take, but whether you can correctly bet and predict how many tricks you will take each round. It's 10 rounds and you take that amount of cards each round. So the first round you only take 1 card, so the majority of people are going to bet 0, but betting 0 at the lower rounds doesn't give you as many points as potentially betting correctly, because if you bet correctly you get more points than if you bet a 0. However, if you manage to pull 0 off in the 8s plus round, you're going to get a lot of points. It works very well. There's a little bit of a tricky trumping system in it, but overall, after 1 game, people get it. It's the mermaid that causes a bit of confusion, but very, very good game, Skulking. 2-player game that I really like, that I picked up cheap at the works in England, is Sun to Zoo. This is a 2-player area control game where you're playing cards to one of 5 areas, and they score different points depending on what round it is. You score points on the 3rd, 6th and 9th round, and you're trying to move a statue further to you or stop it going to the other person. And you do this by playing numbered cards, but any card that you play above a 6 goes out of the game for good. There's also special power cards that let you do things like play -1 what the other players played, and you will take the difference on or off the board depending if you already have troops on the board. Very, very good. For £10, it's an absolute essential buy. That is Sun Tzu. Also with an 8 is Ice Cool, a really cool dexterity game where the arena is built from the box. There's a box in a box in a box, and you build them out and they fit together. You clip them with these little wooden fish, and then you're flicking these penguins round that have a rounded weighted bottom, so you can do all sorts of cool things like curl them or make them jump. My son's much better at it than me, and you're trying to collect fish, or you're playing hall monitor trying to tag the other players and stop them collecting fish. Bit of a wonky scoring method, but I suggested on my review a better scoring method, and excellent production, excellent components, excellent flicking game. And lastly was Dice City. This is another 8 out of 10 for me. Dice City is a game where you all have your own board with colours down one side and dice numbers across the top, and you're rolling coloured dice and you're putting them onto those locations, and you're getting the bonuses, or if you don't want that location, you can use that dice to do other effects like move one of your other dice, and ultimately you're trying to acquire resources to buy better locations for your board. Sort of reminds me a bit of Choreo because of the locations and the dice, but you're kind of building this city in front of you on a board, this town city thing, and you can decide to be an attacking player, you can decide to be a trading player, and it just works really nicely. Yes, it's a little bit like a solo game sometimes, but actually you do need to watch what other people are doing and respond to that. So that has been my review recap for reviews 41 to 50. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again next time.